This is Table Talk, the bonus episode for Live from the Table, a Comedy Cellar affiliated podcast, coming at you on the Laugh Button Podcast Network. And this is a special bonus episode because normally it's me and Periel. Today we have Noam decided to stick around for a little bit, and we have our friend Myq Kaplan. And Myq was joining us for our main show.
Hello.
And Myq Kaplan is he's a comedian, he's a vegan, and he is a
feminist.
A manly man.
And he's a seeker. He is a seeker of wisdom.
I do my best.
And Noam was trying to pin him down on the main show as to whether he would, if his baby needed meat to survive, whether he would give that baby meat.
I'm very wiry. You cannot pin me.
And he was unpinnable. I don't recall you being pinned. Were you pinned?
I don't think I was pinned. I think I solved the problem by not having kids and supporting lab-grown meat.
Well, he also called Noam a monster for saying that.
Noam called me a monster first, yeah.
Right?
He didn't call me a monster.
He did. He said, why are you creating this dying child, this hypothetical dying child?
Right. He had no.
Noam said, "What kind of monster are you, Myq?" And I returned the favor.
Myq apparently has issues with hypotheticals that he doesn't think are realistic hypotheticals.
I mean, I would say.
Whereas I like to dive into the meat of the philosophy, meat, if you will, excuse that.
Whoa, the coconut
term.
meat. Yeah.
The of the philosophy and the philosophical arguments and a lot of good stuff can come out of that. When we do hypotheticals.
I agree with you. And I think that my answer, truly, sometimes the answer is I don't know, or I need to do more research, or I'll happily consider it and get back to you. But I feel like sometimes just extemporaneously coming up with whatever in the moment I think is the answer.
But it's unimaginable you would let your child die.
I'll say that I would do everything that I could within my power and my, my moral, ethical, compassionate
What are you,
framework.
like a Christian Scientist now?
No, I'm.
I don't think the bonus episode should
Jewish
just be a retread of what
science.
we've already talked about.
Well, no, it shouldn't, and that's.
No, you're never here for the bonus
Well,
episode. So
did you hear?
I was hoping to just save the vegan part for the bonus episode, but we didn't have enough. We didn't have enough meat left, if you will, in the main episode.
Wait, so what did
you see?
Noam has something he'd like
I don't
to bring
have
up.
all the data, but we should get a guess on it. But there was a recent article and a recent study showing that there's a much higher rate of mental illness among liberals than conservatives, and more than 50% of liberal women have said that they have been diagnosed with a mental condition.
Well, it also that could be that liberals are more open to seeking treatment for mental illness.
Well, there's a whole long article about it I just read today,
like
which
some conservative
no,
bullshit?
no. There's a lot of study, and it doesn't look like that's
the reason.
What does that mean? There's a lot of studies in where?
Well, we'll talk about it another time. Why? Because I don't have everything at my fingertips like I'd like to, but you should Google it. I just wonder if Myq has any thoughts on that. If it were to be true, would you speculate as to the reason?
I would happily, number one, I'd love to read the article.
It could be IQ related. If high IQ is related to mental illness, and if liberals have higher IQs, that's one possibility.
Also, mental illness.
I don't know if either of those things are true, but that's a hypothesis.
Mental illness itself is, of course, not a monolith. So, mental illness could mean schizophrenia. It could mean anxiety. It could mean clinical depression. And so I think that if let's say it's clinical depression heavy, then I could understand why, depending when the survey is done, I'd be very curious to see what the data is before.
We also know that mental issues in general seem to be increasing throughout society. Something is going wrong.
I mean, also I think the point that mental health awareness is growing so that there are more people who are comfortable seeking help, which means, 100 years ago, how many autism cases were there compared to now that we know what autism is and we know how to detect it? And similar for any mental health challenge, 50 years ago, 70 years ago, homosexuality was seen as a mental illness in the DSM, and that is not what we think anymore. So I feel like we're constantly progressing, but
Gender dysphoria still is, right?
They also used to strap women down while they were giving birth. So, we can't really use any of that.
I don't know.
Oh, yeah, I mean, a hysterectomy comes from the same root as hysterical.
Hysterical, right?
Yeah, so I do think that, there's always a lag in, the science catching up, the science and society catching up to, what mainstream America or...
Does what you read address my point, which is that there's an IQ...
I think it rejects that.
It rejects that as well.
It rejects that, yeah.
Does it offer any
I'll send you the article now. We can talk about it. We should try to get. I'll send you the article. Both of you. We should try to get that the writer.
Oh yeah, that would be great.
I asked Coleman. Coleman said the writer is very thorough and very respected.
Or we could just get Coleman.
No, Coleman doesn't know.
No, but is it this writer wrote an article where he aggregated information, or or has a particular expertise in this area?
Well, I'm not sure.
Because in other words, like sometimes the
particular
journalist
expertise in the area of science,
and
writing an article about science.
Aggregates what they read,
I don't know
and I prefer to go to the source of somebody who's.
I'm very wary of this.
Well, we just need one liberal scientist and one conservative scientist, and the liberal one will be a mad scientist, and the conservative one will be a glad
And then isn't
scientist.
it this thing that like, oh, I don't believe in therapy? Like,
Well, that was my.
I don't believe in therapy.
Initial point was
Can you
is that
more about that? Hold on.
Wait. I wasn't saying that about you. I was just saying do liberals seek therapy?
That's I brought the point up. That was the first point I brought up.
Right.
So you believe
Noam
in
said
therapy?
that from what he read, that's not the reason.
Noam believes in therapy for others.
No, Noam doesn't believe that therapy.
He doesn't believe therapy works.
Oh, but that's scientifically false.
Cognitive behavioral therapy works. Yes.
Absolutely. That's a type of therapy.
No, he's saying no, that's not what he said. What he has said is that he doesn't think that not that therapy doesn't work, that he doesn't think that therapists necessarily have any discernible skill. Which is to say that if I walked into an office and Noam was my therapist, I wouldn't know that he actually wasn't a therapist, as opposed to.
And she'd feel better.
I would love to see the experiment where Noam and real therapists offer people therapy.
It'd be a great show
to find out.
I mean,
what the results are.
How do you feel about that?
Ethically, you couldn't do an experiment.
How does that
like
make you feel?
It feels good imagining your failure.
But no,
I'm convinced I'm right. There is no. By the way, this came out recently. I think there was.
You're saying it's all placebo.
No, I took a.
No, there was just something published about this.
That's not what he's not saying it's placebo. He's saying that anybody could pretend to be a therapist.
He's saying, but if you feel better, it's because it's placebo. The therapist is not.
No, not placebo.
Because it's valuable to share.
Or it's always valuable to talk about your
It
feelings.
feels good to talk about yourself. As we all know, as anybody who's gone to therapy knows, 6 different therapists tell you 6 different things, and they all make you feel better.
So this is what I would like to say, is that I've been to therapy, and I've tried to talk to you about how I feel.
Get your money back, Periel.
And I definitely don't feel better after I try to talk to you.
Well, I want to offer this.
Yeah.
In my time at Brandeis, I studied psychology as a major, and we took a class called Schools of Psychotherapy. And they did, at the time, some of the research showed that regardless of the type of therapy, be it CBT or talk therapy or other types, like it all had a pretty similar success rate and failure rate. And this doesn't necessarily address what you're saying, but I think that, Noam, the thing that therapists do have that not everyone does is like, I went to a performance art therapist once, like as a fun thing, like not to get actual therapy, but like I was curious. I didn't have great insurance at the time. I was like, maybe this will be fun. It was a person I knew, and when I was in that fake therapy session, like some of it made me feel good, but she also talked about her own life and her own things much more than any actual therapist that I've ever had. So part of the training of being a therapist, which makes them better to talk to and better listeners than just a person who didn't get a degree in therapy, is that they do actually become better listeners and they do know what questions to ask. And especially if you just let someone talk, then yes, they might feel better about talking. But most people, like, I don't know if you've ever tried talking to yourself, Noam, like you don't always let people talk, even if you were trying to be a therapist. I don't know that you would be able to.
No, you do believe, however, in psychiatric medication.
Yes.
All right.
I'm trying to find the article. There was something about ChatGPT, and it was the only profession it was good at or something. I don't know.
Have you ever been to therapy?
He's been couples therapy.
I have been. I've been to couples therapy, and
Did it help?
As a child, I went to a therapist for a few weeks, and then, but they I was in first or second grade, third grade. I don't know. My parents divorced, and for whatever reason, they thought maybe they should take me to a therapist. And I remember, I guess I was in first grade
because they were divorcing, so they thought.
And the therapist puts out a piece of paper, crayon, says, draw me a picture. And I'm like, what do you want me to draw? And she says, whatever you want. I'm like, oh no.
Wow, it was in there that early?
What do you think I am? Stupid? I wouldn't do. I knew. They're so stupid. I knew even at that young age.
Well, what exactly were they expecting?
They're gonna
you
try
draw?
to see what I did. I draw
Like
my mother with a noose around her neck.
Look at how much information they got from you refusing to do it.
So she's like, okay, that's okay. You don't have to do that if you don't want to do. Let's play. So we play Chinese checkers. We'll do that. So next week again, and after like 3 or 4 weeks, they're like, listen, he won't talk about anything. He won't do it. So they just stopped sending me.
If I
And then how is therapy as an adult? Couples therapy. Did that help?
Therapy is a farce. I mean,
That's ridiculous. It is
Take
not
it
a
easy.
farce.
maybe you guys should go to couples therapy. Also, do you know Shane Moss, the comedian?
No.
Shane is
Yeah, I've heard the name.
fantastic. We started out around the
Shane-
same time.
M-A-U-S-S?
M-A-U-S-S. Shane.
M-O-U,
So Shane.
M-A-U-S-S.
Shane is doing a show starting in Vegas pretty soon, all about his experience with psychedelics and how at one point he has bipolar and ended up in a psych ward a couple times. And he was telling me one of the stories that he's going to tell is that being in a psych ward while, sort of manic or hypomanic or under the influences of his bipolar condition, he was like looking around and trying to figure out patterns and seeing it all as like a game and trying to be like, how do I get out of here? And he realized eventually, like once he sort of came back to himself and used scientific information that he had learned, because he has a science podcast and he loves science and learning about the brain. And he saw other people and he's like, oh, those people are actually kind of biased in ways in the way that they're behaving. Maybe I'm kind of, screwed up in that way as well. And he ultimately came to the idea, he's like, oh yeah, they'll let you out of the insane asylum. They'll let you out of the psych ward when you stop trying to get out of the psych ward. So I feel like if you had drawn a picture on the first day, they would have been like, oh, what a nice little picture. Yeah, this kid's fine. But like the fact that they were trying to they're trying to get, like, they weren't trying to get you. They were trying to get you help. But you wouldn't let them.
Anyway, Noam is a child of divorced parents that seems almost to have preferred it. I think you
No,
you didn't
prefer it.
Oh, okay.
Well, I don't know. I don't
Well,
know.
that's all you knew.
I didn't live the counterfactual, but no.
But when your parents divorced, you were older. You were how old?
5.
So how did you process that? Did it bother you, or do you not recall?
Of course, it bothered me.
Okay.
What I am.
I think
If you prick me, do I not bleed?
I think the thing about Noam that's sort of unique is that unlike many people, he will just really tell you exactly how he feels, and that also is.
Oh no, I don't tell you that. Barry.
Oh my God.
Au contraire.
My parents divorced when I was about 13, 14. And like I had up until that point, I was like, we're happy. The family's happy. Everything's great. Like, I don't know. They don't tell me whatever the challenges are. And then when they told me they were growing apart and splitting, they were like, it's not your fault. And I'm like, well, I didn't think it was. So why are you telling me that?
Yeah, I remember that. It's not your fault. It's not your fault. I said, wait, is it?
I'm
my
3.
fault?
I'm 5. Like, what are you talking about?
I hadn't thought of that, but now
they
you
think
mention
the
it.
parents doth protest too much. But I truly, when I was like, oh, they want to get they want to get divorced. If your parents want to get divorced, good. Like that means that they should get divorced, almost certainly, because it is much better for a child to have like 2 happier parents separate than a stressful.
We don't know
together.
that. We don't know that.
That's the way I feel.
That's what parents in troubled marriages swallow very easily, because it gives them license to get divorced rather than having to try to stay together and for the kids. I'm not saying you should stay together for the kids, but I would say that it would be very hard to drag me out of my marriage, even if marriage was going badly.
That doesn't mean it's better for the kids to grow up in a
No,
household.
I'm saying is my gut tells me
It would be better.
well
Imagine
it's
that
not
you're
better
full
for the
of
kids to
rage.
see
Yeah.
domestic abuse.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, so there's a level at which it would be better to separate.
well, but the related to
children are
that
seeing domestic
related
abuse.
to that is the parents' own inability to control themselves in front of their kids.
Oh, yeah, it'd be great if everyone was perfect, but in the real world,
Well, by the way, since this is technically the bonus episode, and I am technically in charge of the bonus episode, I would like to switch topics a little bit related to veganism, but nothing what we discussed on the actual show, and ask a little bit about your pre-vegan existence. First of all, do you have any recollection, we're talking about childhood, of when you realize, because that's a big moment in a child's life when they're told, by the way, this chicken, the reason we call this chicken is because it's a chicken. It's not just a hominem. It's an actual animal.
I have a friend who asks people if they eat chickens. And I feel like that framing really does drive home the point that you're making.
But so as a kid, at some point, you don't know at first. You're eating this delicious food, and you think you have no idea that it's an animal.
Yeah, I don't remember the exact point or the age. I know that by high school was the first time that I remember thinking, like, I'd rather not kill animals. I knew that at that point I was eating animals that had been killed, and I didn't want that to be so, but I also didn't feel like I had the power or authority in my house to make the food, cook the food, get the food. So it wasn't until college that I did stop eating them. But yeah, it was...
Prior to high school, do you recall how you felt about eating meat, or you didn't think about it at all?
I really didn't think about it. I mean, like, we really disguise it. You know, like a hot dog doesn't look like...
Intentionally. So I became a full-blown vegetarian from age 12 to 18. I wouldn't even eat fish. And I do remember the first time I met a pig, and that was...
that was
it.
And then you started a podcast with him. Yeah.
Right. I went to a petting farm or something with, like, my class, and exactly that experience. The pig was so friendly and nice, and I became, like, a pretty big animal rights activist, and used to go around in, like, Dwayne Reed's and put, like, PETA stickers on, like, stuff that was tested on animals. So, yeah, I think that it's intentionally divided, right? Like, meat doesn't look like meat in the supermarket.
Yeah, it's in a box.
Right. Or in plastic.
Well, but sometimes you go to, like, a steakhouse, and there'll be, like, a cow on the wall,
Right, sure.
and they'll have, like, and the cow will be divided. And I always thought that was kind of odd. Or they'll be like, like Kentucky Fried Chicken. Is their logo have a chicken? I'm not sure,
it's actually not even allowed to be
Colonel.
called Kentucky
They
Fried
don't call it
Chicken.
that anymore.
It's called KFC because they're not even using real chickens. They're using
real
genetically.
chickens.
No, they're not. They're
Oh my God! Did you get that from a meme? That's.
I got that from the same place you got your liberal mental
It's real
illness.
chickens. What are you talking about? It's not real chickens.
They had to stop using Kentucky Fried Chicken and called KFC because they were using, like, genetically modified chicken.
Mommy, Daddy, please.
Genetically modified chicken is still a chicken.
No, look it up. I'm sure it's the
Nicole, look it up. This is ridiculous. You go to the dark web or whatever. Go.
But as I was saying, in steakhouses, I mean, oftentimes they don't try to disguise it.
But
It'll be a
that's
steakhouse. It'll be a
different.
big cow on the wall, and
Yeah.
they'll say, here's the rump
Yeah.
roast, and here's the filet mignon is over here,
Yeah.
and
That's
this is
right.
over here, and
But
so on
that's
and so
different.
forth.
I'm talking about, like, factory farming and supermarkets.
And also chicken of the sea. They're remember chicken of the sea?
Tuna.
Oh,
the tuna,
no,
Starkist.
Nicole.
One of those popular theories that my eyesight is not great.
One of those
proven false is
So the official reason is the KFC team wanted to shorten their name, and they wanted to shy away from fries.
How can you possibly believe something that's so self-evidently not true? This is why I question democracy. Like I know that it doesn't have to be white landowners, but there's got to be some way that people like that votes are not
vote.
like what is gained
When
in
Periel
self-government
Can we
by
just-
having somebody who can't discern something so obvious. Like they should vote on nuclear policy.
We-
Wait, Nicole, put that back. Rumors that the brand was reported using quote-unquote mutant chemically engineered bird sparked this wacky idea.
Well, this is Reader's Digest, so how much can we? Yeah.
I mean, it's unbelievable to me, and I'm not even kidding now. Like this, and these are the people who are like, oh, these fucking Southerners. Like this is so idiotic, so idiot. I cannot believe you take that. Like I know that's not true. On a public broad, I'll say that's bullshit. I don't need to look it up. I'm not even interested in looking. It's obviously not true.
It doesn't seem that far-fetched to me.
Of course it doesn't.
now. In answer to your question, why let people like Periel vote? I think the answer is it would be just too difficult to decide who gets. It's the same argument.
But someday we might be able to
It's
tell.
the same argument we make about free speech on Twitter. Who gets to decide who says what? So in the same vein, we say if we wanted to limit voting to those who were
Are you saying we could not construct a test, an exam to give to people?
Well,
that could weed out people who don't know a fucking thing.
Are you calling
but-
me stupid?
It's worse than stupid.
But Periel may have other things to offer as a voter than just her knowledge of chicken.
It's not her knowledge of chickens. It's her inability to tell fact from
But
fiction.
there are people that can tell fact from fiction, but may have wacky ideas in other areas. You'd never be able to develop a good test of who are the wise elders of society.
Let's try.
If I may, also, I have a new
Thank
idea.
you, Dan.
I have a vegan chicken product that I call Kentucky Fried Fiction, so it fits in pretty well. That's it for me, everyone. I do have to run to my show. Thank you so much for having me. Thank you, Noam, for having me.
Thank you,
Thank
Myq.
you, Dan. I love you all in every way.
All right, go ahead.
Myq seems like such a happy person. I envy him that.
Mike's walking out.
Well, you don't know what sort of dark.
I don't know,
go
but
through
he just
Wait, Mike, you forgot your purse.
He just seems like such a well balanced.
I thought that was funny.
He seems like such a well balanced
He's a terrific guest.
You
guy.
should know better than that, though.
Well, look, I know what. Yeah, but
I mean, he's not going to come on and like talk about all of his like depressive tendencies and anxieties. I mean, unless you ask him, he might tell you.
I'm just saying I get a vibe.
Okay.
I could be wrong. Just like
What vibe
Noam
of
gets
what?
a vibe that President Carter never cheated on his wife, but he might be wrong.
You get a
But
vibe
if
about
you-
what?
That Myq is a happy person.
Oh, I thought you
That
said
is-
that. Okay.
What
That
did you think?
Nothing.
He's looking at his phone. That's the vibe I get. And just as Noam thinks, if he had to bet on President Carter not cheating on his wife, he would take the bet, but he wouldn't be confident. And I would take the bet that Myq is a happy person, but I wouldn't do it with 100% confidence. That's
Right.
all I'm saying.
I just think everybody is riddled with, different kinds of.
Well, but to different levels. There's definitely happy people. I asked my friend, I won't mention his name, last night. I said, if I could guarantee you 30 more years of life, he's 56. I said, I'll give you 30 years of life, guaranteed, and you're in a great mood the whole 30 years.
Yeah.
But you'll die in your sleep. And you won't know it's coming, but you'll die in your sleep in 30 years. So you'll be 86, which is a
Or-
reasonable life span. Or maybe I said 25 years. I think I said 25 years.
Okay.
So he's 81. And he doesn't know it's coming. As soon as he makes the deal, it's erased from his memory.
Mhm.
For the next 25 years, he's in a great mood. As great a mood as he's ever been in. But he drops dead in his sleep at 81.
Mhm.
Or just take your chances. Maybe you'll live till 100, whatever, but your mood will be whatever it's going to be. And he chose option 2. He is in such good mood so often that he decided he'd rather roll the dice.
Is he in such a good mood so often? Is that
Well,
true?
I perceive him to be in a great mood, and he confirmed it by not taking the deal that I offered. Would you take a similar deal? I'll give you, well, you're younger than he is. I'll give you 40 years of the best mood, 30 years.
See, that changes the
Yeah.
deal, though. Those 5 years or 10 years really make a difference. But I would.
But anyway, the point of the matter is that he is a guy that is in such a good mood that he didn't even take what I consider to be a very generous offer. I think most people would, if they could see you live till 81, but you'll be happy the whole way, as opposed to rolling the dice, would take that deal. Nicole, any thoughts?
Yeah, I mean that checks out for me.
No-
Although I am counting down to death with fear every day.
No. I mean, Nicole is so young that to her 81 seems ridiculously far off.
Right.
Whereas to us, it only seems far off.
Right.
But not ridiculously so.
But
So Nicole, you'd probably take the deal if I gave you till 75.
Maybe, I don't know. I mean, it's so hard to say. It's like scary.
ask Noah.
But you're going to be in a great mood the whole time, and you won't know it's coming.
do you want to be in a great mood the whole time?
I think so.
What's my question? What's the question?
I offered my friend, this is hypothetical. That's why I had to wait till Myq left because he hates hypotheticals. That will never happen. I said, for the
30
next
more
25 years, he's 56, you'll be in a great mood. All right? You'll be the best mood, as good a mood as you've ever been in, but you'll die at the end of 25 years. But you won't know it's coming. You'll die in your sleep peacefully
81.
at 81. Or roll the dice, and maybe you'll live till 100. Maybe you'll die tomorrow, and your mood will be whatever it would be.
And you know you're going to die at 81?
No.
You don't know that. As soon as you make the deal, you sign the paperwork, it's forgotten. But you're in a great mood the entire time. And now I'll offer you a similar deal, I guess. Now you're a little bit closer to 81 than he is, but not by much.
Yeah, I might take that. There's no other parameters or your health.
There's no other parameters. You're guaranteed to 81.
Happiness.
Happiness
till 81.
happiness and 81. The other side, door number 2 is you're guaranteed neither, but you might get 100 years of happiness.
What are the chances of that?
Very slim. I mean, so you have to look at how long you expect to live.
Well, okay, so let's say you get the answer is take the deal. Then it becomes interesting to shave off a year at a time and see where the hypothetical fails. Would you take 3 more years, 5 more years?
Yeah, I think if you gave me to 81, I would take it. If you gave me to, to be in a
71?
good mood, 71, I don't think I would, but 81, I think I would. And then 75, I might have to think about.
Is there any value to going through the trials and tribulations of being unhappy so that when you are happy, you appreciate it more?
If we can include that in the deal, we can negotiate that. If you feel that your overall happiness would be augmented by occasional moments of unhappiness, we can negotiate that into the deal. Yes, we can.
How many millimeters? I've asked you this before. How many millimeters of penis would you give up for IQ points? For extra
IQ points?
Yeah.
Penis size to me is really not. First of all, my penis is, as nobody asked, but it's adequate size.
Right.
I could certainly afford.
How many would you give up? How much?
But how much good would IQ points do me? Especially in stand-up comedy.
Or go the opposite. How many IQ points would you give up?
How many would I give up?
More penis.
Yeah, I'd have more. Oh, none. No, 0.
So you're perfect. You were born with the perfect IQ to penis equilibrium.
I don't want lower IQ. If you're saying I could have a bigger penis, I don't need a bigger penis.
What if lower IQ increased your happiness?
You really like to penis size to you is really is really a thing for you? Like you really care?
No, I would give up penis size for more IQ. I would rather have more IQ.
Okay, but would you
I'm
give
married.
up
I
IQ
barely
for
use
penis size?
Huh?
Would you give up IQ for penis size? What good is IQ going to do you? Really?
No, I would not give up IQ for penis size. I would give up penis for IQ.
Okay, but what good is IQ going to do you? You're a happy guy. Would you be happier with higher IQ?
Yeah,
you don't know
you
that.
You might be richer, but we've already said that the diminishing returns.
I wouldn't be richer.
Even if you were richer, it's diminishing returns. Would you be happier? I mean,
I think I'd be happier.
Do you think you'd be?
Why?
Because I get happiness out of intellectual things, and I feel like I'd be better at them.
And I also think you underestimate whatever your IQ is, and to whatever extent IQ. I mean, IQ is. I don't deny IQ is a legitimate thing, but when you are arguing or discussing things with your friends that you consider to be intellectual titans, like Coleman, like I don't know, Periel, Myq Kaplan. I don't know if you put in that category. Tyler Cowen.
Tyler Cowen.
And also, by the way,
level.
if you were at their level, you might not enjoy them as much because you're not learning from them and you're not awed by them.
That's true.
Okay.
It's like when somebody once said to me, David Tell, I hate watching David Tell because he's so good. I said, but you want to be the best? You don't want someone that you'd never want to be awed by anybody. You never want to be impressed. You never want to be inspired because that's what it is to be the best.
Well,
you want to have somebody that says, "Wow, that's inspiring."
Sure. Well, of course, you've all heard the expression: you never want to be the smartest person in the room, right? You want that experience in life. You want to watch people and learn from people and be around.
I don't know that expression, but it's roughly. Look, I would want to be the smartest person in the room, depending on the room.
Look at Noam.
Because who never said that.
If it's a comedy, who never said that?
The smartest person in the room.
And of course, smart. Noam underestimates also, as I said, his intellectual capacities. And I asked Coleman, I said, "Do you agree with me that Noam underestimates himself?" He said, "Yeah. I mean, he called you brilliant." Now,
I know flashes, but
sometimes you get fixated on shit, and I can't break you out of it. And because you're going down your own logic barrel and tunnel, but you're very
Yeah, he can be like that.
And what's good about Noam, and what I said to him the other night, is he's not handicapped by ideological brand. He doesn't have to believe. In other words, if you're somebody that's a conservative, your brand is Tucker Carlson. That's your brand. You have to follow that brand.
Yeah.
You can't just follow where the logic and facts take you. Noam can because he doesn't have a book he's trying to sell. He can follow whatever the facts and logic take.
I appreciate that. I try to be that way. But I think that's what people think they might think I'm smart because of that. It's not really the same thing as intelligence.
You'd be smart simply because you seem to be impartial.
Yeah.
And they.
That's a personality thing. It's different.
Well, look. I think you're certainly smart enough to get the benefits, the joys out of the discussions that you have.
What you're not smart enough to realize, or Periel, is just how I was implying I have a huge cock. Okay. I can spare a couple of inches for my IQ points.
Okay. Well, you said millimeter. I mean, a millimeter. You said millimeter, but
millimeters. Yeah.
I never in my life thought about, I worry about a lot of things.
But not.
We're used to worry about the Russians dropping a nuke on us.
But not
okay.
size.
I worry about many. I used to, I scratch a nail. I think I got tetanus, but so there's plenty of worry.
What was that thing Dan thought he had? Cancer one time?
Yeah,
I had some. I had something below my eye.
Yeah.
But one thing I've never, ever, ever been concerned about is the size of my penis. It's perfectly adequate, and unless it were micro, and
like Hitler.
Was Hitler a micro penis?
Well, folks, this will be our last episode.
They say that Hitler has microphallus.
Is that
and
true?
really,
they say, yeah.
really, I don't think women are that concerned unless it's at a micro level. Yeah, if it's 2 inches, fully erect, then there's going to be an issue. But I think anything reasonable.
Well, what's reasonable?
I think 4.5
Okay.
fully erect
Well,
is
I can
reasonable.
assure you that that's not reasonable.
That's not reasonable. You don't think that's reasonable?
4 inches?
It doesn't
I said
matter.
4.5.
Doesn't have to be wide. 4.5. I mean,
4.5 long with proportional girth.
This is not
fully erect.
Listen,
Well, I think it's interesting.
First of all, I didn't realize that you were entirely in charge of this bonus episode.
I have to go.
Well.
Wait,
All
why
this
are
talk
you?
about penis size make me horny. I'm gonna go home to my.
All right. Anyway, the bonus episode is we've done our half hour, but
I wanted to.
you think 4.5 is too small?
Yeah, it's a little small.
Well, Nicole, do you have anything to say about that or no comment?
This is
The average penis size is at least 5 inches
Okay.
is what?
per Google.
5 inches.
5.16 inches.
Okay. Anyway.
Is that globally, or do they have any cohorts in that?
Okay, thank you for tuning in. You can find us at Dan Naturman and at Periel Aschenbrand. And
This is Table Talk, the bonus episode. I don't know however you want to characterize it, of Live from the Table. And we thank you for listening. Podcast at comedycellar.com. For any comments about either podcast, and what your thoughts are on the Beyond or Impossible Burger.
and penis size.
And penis size. And that's all. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.